All right. Thank you for that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the 3 most important things in business. And I'll tell you, I went on a 21-day tech fast. You've heard some of that story. I went up to the mountains, spent 21 days, no computer, no email, no text. I did tell you earlier today the response everyone says, which is, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. And then immediately they say, what? I could never do that, okay? So I won't break through all of that. We can do that in a future training. What I am going to tell you is that what happens when you spend time alone, and especially when you're really engaged in thinking, when it's not like, like a vacation to Cancun is one thing. That's not really time alone. That's just more like fun. But when you actually spend time where you have time to really think and process, your subconscious mind begins to bring things to the surface that have been there for years, ideas, strategies, and solutions, and you start to realize things are a lot simpler than you thought they were. And so I left, frankly, with a very complicated business and a complicated way of thinking about business, and I came back with a very simple way of thinking about things. And I've actually completely turned my business upside down, my personal business. I've rearranged things in such a way as to follow this particular plan that I'm going to show you right now. And I'll tell you what I'm doing, and I'll tell you why I'm doing it, and then I want you to see how you can fit yourself into this strategy. But it really turns into something very simple. And like I said, so you all know this, but Mike and I do things together, and then we have our own businesses, right? And so it's fully transparent. There's no like competition or anything like that. We get along perfectly, and there's a lot of cooperation between the businesses. But I've got my own events and products and that sort of thing, and so does he. And then we have some things that we do together. And so I'll talk specifically when I'm talking right now. I'll be talking specifically about my business, the examples that I'm using. But there's certainly some merging and crossover. Okay. All right. So let's just get to the board, and we'll talk about these 3 things. And you're not going to be surprised when you see these, but you will be surprised at how simple it is when you can implement and execute. And I'll tell you that most business owners that I work with, and the coaching program that we have, I've gotten to work now with over 350, some of the bright, like folks like Satori, some of the brightest business owners in the world. I mean, I'm talking about people from $500,000 all the way up to $40 million. I mean, we've got a mastermind group with people who have $2 million, $7 million, 17, 25, $40 million businesses. We do have folks who are also in the 6-figure range, and we do have some reinventors. So, for example, one of our newest clients just signed up. She's a operations director in a family business, a $2 billion business, but she's transitioning to grow her own personal brand. And there's folks like that in the mastermind. In other words, people who've been successful in the past who are transitioning or reinventing. And from looking at all of those folks, and most of them I've actually done one-on-one coaching with in the form of like a coaching day or a consulting day. Looking at all those businesses, what you start to see across every industry, I'm talking about like I've worked with make money in real estate all the way to people who taught folks how to deal with their husband's Alzheimer's. I mean, you talk about different markets, by the way, like things all the way across the board, big industries, small, big companies, small, franchises, pest control, everything. And when you start to see the playing field, what you start to realize is the commonalities are way more important than the differences, right? I mean, every business has to implement their marketing strategies differently, but when it comes down to the big picture stuff, they're really the same, okay? And so I'm gonna write 3 things on the board, and then I'm gonna talk about each of them. And again, the first one's not gonna be a surprise to you having taken Consultant Profit, but the rest might be in the order that they go. Okay, so here's what you need. And when I say you need these, and you probably don't need much else. Like you'll be surprised at how little you actually need. So do you need an office? Maybe, maybe not. Do you need real people sitting in the office? Maybe, maybe not. Do you need to use Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter? I don't know, maybe, maybe not. You know, a couple things you're gonna probably wanna use, a cell phone. You know, you're gonna wanna have a place where you can actually talk to people and maybe close some deals. And you're gonna need the first thing, which is a positioning vehicle, okay? So you need something to position you in the marketplace. And you're familiar enough probably with Consultant Profit to know that positioning is everything, okay? What's more important, someone's celebrity or authority or their perceived celebrity and authority? Perceived, okay? This is a really important thing to think about. The second thing to remember is that anyone who's anyone started out as no one. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe the prince, maybe like Prince, what are the prince's names? Harry? Philip, what's the other guy? Andrew, I'm so sorry. I should know both of those things. So I watched the entire Crown series. So I've watched that. So I know all of the history of Queen Elizabeth. But I'm sorry that I don't know. I don't read People magazine. I'm sorry to tell you. I know they're very important people. I have no idea what they do on a day-to-day basis. But the one guy is married to a very attractive, what's her name? Princess Kate. Yes, I know that. I know her too. I don't know her. I've heard of her. Anyway, my point is, besides the princes, whose names I now know, that's very interesting, by the way. Besides the princes, anyone else started out just like we started out, okay? And so there's this little voice in the back of your head where you're like, you ever heard the phrase, fake it till you make it? You ever heard that taught before? That's complete bullcrap, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because you, in the market, so here's the thing. Right now, this is where it's at. Like right now in the marketplace, what you know, what you do, what you can do, what you can help people with, the things that are up in your head, the change that you can make in people's lives or businesses or careers or political careers or campaigns is significant. And my guess is on a scale of 1 to 10, in real life, you're floating someplace between an 8 and a 9.5. You're not as good as you could be, but you're pretty darn good. And if somebody sat down with you after a day, they would be like, dang, that was amazing. Why haven't I heard of you before? Okay? But the market right now sees you as a what? Scale of 1 to 10. Put yourself where the market sees you.
0.
Okay? Someplace between a 0 and maybe like a 3. Right? Okay, so now think about this for a second. Fake it till you make it assumes you're not an 8 to a 9.5. It assumes you're like a 1 and you're a 3, the market perception, and you have to fake a 9 until people start thinking of you as a 9. The problem with that is you're already an 8 to a 9.5. So your job is to position yourself in the marketplace and show people who you really are. Does that make sense? This is an important point. And the reason I make this point is because for years you've been holding yourself back. So like, it's very common for me to do a coaching day with a client. One of the things I do in our private coaching consulting sessions is you and I sit down and we talk through positioning and branding. And it's very common for me to start looking at other people in someone's field, the competitors. And when I do that, my client almost always does this. They roll their eyes and they go, oh, that guy's stuff is horrible. But he's really popular, but man, his stuff isn't anywhere near as good as mine. And I'm like, that's your fault. It's your fault. Apparently, this person who's your competitor is disreputable. They don't treat their customers right. They have a great reputation in the marketplace, but everything they do is horrible. And you're here telling me your stuff is really good, but you're not as popular as him, and that's your fault because you haven't marketed yourself the way that you need to market yourself. You haven't given yourself the courage to go out there and be who you are. Okay, so when it comes to positioning, cut that whole fake it till you make it stuff out of your brain and start to realize you are who you are, and it's time for the world to start to feel that. Okay, now let me ask you a question. When you do that, could you come off as a little arrogant? Yes. Could you start to rub people the wrong way? Yes. Will people comment occasionally and say nasty things to you on Facebook? Yes. Does it matter? No, because the only votes that count, grab a pen and write this down. The only votes that count are the ones that are accompanied by a credit card. Okay, and I know that sounds really harsh, but we're talking about business. You with me? I'm not talking to you about how to build your church. I could do that. I'm not talking to you about how to build your nonprofit. I'm not talking to you about how to build wells in Africa. Those are all valuable things, and I would love to talk about those right now, but you're here because of business, okay? So we're stovepiping our conversation, and so in business, the votes that count are accompanied by money. Okay, so listen, here's the deal. Your aunt's opinion on your blog post doesn't actually matter. Neither does your spouse's, for that matter. I know that's hard to hear. Okay, but he or she doesn't know how to make money because if they would, they may. But the chances are you're the person making the money and they're not. Okay, so their opinion doesn't matter near as much as well. Whose opinion matters? Two different people. Number one, people have been there, done that, still doing it. They're called coaches, consultants, or advisors that you pay to give you good advice, and those people should be making the kind of money you want to make. The second group of people are the people that buy things from you. Their vote counts. It is important. They voted with the most important thing. So when it comes to positioning, what are some ways that you can put yourself into the marketplace in such a way that when people come to you, they feel like they've just showed up and they're talking to an expert? Let me just give you an example. We do events, which you should come to, big live events. And this happens every event, and it cracks me up. I'll show up at an event, and I'm there, and I'm available. So on the breaks, I'm always in the back talking to folks because I really want to get to know you and your business and stuff. And also because I'm never available any other time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not hanging out everywhere else, and I'm not on social a lot, and I certainly don't chat it up on my cell phone. all that stuff's normally off for me, but at events, I'm engaging folks. And it always happens where I'll come to an event and I'll walk in and I'll see someone and they've got a name badge on and I'm like, Michelle, what's going on? And Michelle or whoever this person is will turn around, she's never met me before, and she'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity or something. Like I've seen all of your videos, and mind you, I've never met this person, and they've never met me. And I'm like totally normal, flesh and blood. Like there's nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like, but something about some activities, online or offline, created the sense that there was sort of this authority, positioning, celebrity. That's on purpose, right? That's on purpose. I mean, there's a reason you bought this product. You saw a video, you saw a Facebook post, you went to a webcast, you're like, dang. And the next thing you know, you're here. And I'm sure you're glad you're here. You know, we did our job, right? We motivated you to take action, and now you're going to go get great results back, but we did it through positioning. So let's talk quickly just about a couple positioning things. I'm not going to go through them all, but what are some ways to get positioning in the marketplace to be perceived as the authority that you are? It's important the way I just said that. Perceived as the authority that you are. Some ways to get positioning. Let's talk. Okay, speaking. Bam. One of the most powerful ways to get, look, when you stand up and speak, you're recognized as an authority, even if you're not very good, frankly. Okay, so get over whatever fear that you have of public speaking. Did Mike talk about, here's what fear of public speaking is. Mike taught this. This is brilliant, by the way. You know what fear of public speaking is? Selfishness. Because when you're afraid of public speaking, who are you thinking of? Yourself. Who should you be thinking of? Your audience. Let me tell you, about 5 years ago, I never got nervous again after another speech because I started thinking about my audience, and I started thinking about my coaching members, and I started thinking, man, I love my coaching members. Let's go out and get 10 more. And then I never got nervous ever before. And if you see me speak, it's very natural, and the reason why is because I care for the people that I'm talking to, and I'm not thinking that much about myself. Okay? Speaking, what else? A book, bam. Listen, how many of you, by the way, have a book? Just raise your hand real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, for everyone who didn't, when would now be a really amazing time to get your book done? Okay, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm gonna tell you a secret. A book, you know what a book is? A book is a Word document with a cover, right? When I wrote my first book back in 2008, I thought I have to go to the mountains for 3 years and sit in a cabin with a typewriter, bing, bing. You know, that's not it. It's not it. I took 8 articles that I had put online. They were each about 250 words. I put it into a book. I called it my 50-page book jammed into 98 pages. Okay, I had some bigger, larger fonts than normal. I had a lot of quotes, okay, and I published a book, all right? And in the book, I told people, hey, the book is short. It was a productivity book. I'm like, there's no need for me to write a long productivity book. So I want to write a book that you can read in half an hour. You can get some strategy you can implement right now and move along. Okay, so I wrote a quick book. That book became a #1 bestseller. I rebranded it, by the way, a couple of years ago. It's a book called Take the Shot. It's available on Amazon. And the book is a tool for positioning. So people stand up when I do keynote speeches and they go, Ed Rush is a 4-time #1 best-selling author. And the audience is like, damn, 4-time #1 best-selling author. And then I ask the audience, I do this quite a bit. I go, by the way, did you even know what I wrote about? And everybody goes, one of them was about business, I think. I'm like, I wrote a business book, a Christian book. I wrote a book for attorneys. Okay, I wrote a book about consulting. And one of my other books I don't even mention is a fishing book. But they don't even know that. They just know Ed Rush was a 4-time #1 best-selling author. So book, okay? Super short, a thought for you if you haven't written a book. We do have an event, it's called Publish and Profit. This event happens about every 6 months. It's 100 people or 100 folks or less. You leave a guaranteed bestseller. So you show up with an idea. You don't have to have anything written. You leave as a best-selling author. We use Amazon's pre-release, so that gives you 90 days to complete your book. You went to Publish and Profit, right? So if you have any questions, ask Satori. I'm telling you, you've never seen an event like this. Most events you go to, no, there's nothing wrong with these, by the way. Most events you go to, you show up and you learn the things that you go off and implement. This is the one event where you show up and you get the thing you came for before you leave. So everyone becomes a bestseller. It's guaranteed. And 97% roughly of the folks that show up leave #1 bestsellers. Okay, so if you have the desire to be an author, that's the way to do it. And Nicole, who's in the back, can tell you about Publish and Profit. There's an event coming up very soon. If you're interested, it would be worth it. I'm telling you, there's nothing like this program on planet Earth, okay? That said, with or without Publish and Profit, what should you still do? Get your stinking book done, right? Stop being such a perfectionist. Write the book, okay? Write it. Just do it. By the way, a book is more like a website now. So let me give you an example. The other day, I found 9 errors that I wanted to fix in one of my books. I fixed the books in the manuscript. I uploaded the manuscript. The book was fixed. Amazon doesn't print these nowadays until you buy them. So they print them and they fulfill 2-day shipping off of Prime, but they don't print them until you buy the book, and then they just print one book. So the next day, Amazon is printing my book with the 9 changes that are fixed. The first time I wrote a book, I had 3,000 books in my office. That's how many I had to order. I still have books. By the way, I'll grab a couple of them. They're my, you can have them. I don't even, you know what I'm saying? I'm done with those. I still have them, and I just want them gone, right? But now you can print every other day. So that takes away the perfectionism. You can just get it done, and you can keep working on it if you want to. After it's done and you're a best-selling author. Book. What are some other ways to create positioning?
Interviews.
Yes, thank you. That was the one I was going to say next. Interviews. Normally this is in the format of a podcast, okay? Rising tide lifts all boats. So who do you want to interview? Yes, so you want to interview people who have name recognition, but it doesn't need to be like Kardashian-style name recognition. It just needs to be name recognition in your industry. So if you're going to be a guru in dentistry, you want to be talking to people who might have name recognition or be known in dentistry. Okay, if you want to work, for example, in the military or in politics, you want to find people in the industry. So when I launched a fishing show, within a year of launching a fishing show, I was on TV, which is a hysterical joke because I'm not that good at fishing. Okay, but I'm on a TV show in San Diego Bay on Fox. Here's Ed Rush, fish, and I'm catching fish, which is amazing. Okay, a great benefit to that day, and I don't know that much about fishing, but I'm the guy who had the show, and I went and interviewed a bunch of people on TV, and they're like, "Hey, I want you to come on my show," and it was amazing. So you can go to Google and type in Ed Rush fishing TV, and you'll see my show. Okay, the point is, I didn't even know, and I wasn't Ed Rush in that market. I was just a guy. I was just some guy. You know what I'm saying? It's different in the markets that I'm in right now. Okay, so for example, right now, I'm launching 2 events. One's a specifically for men event. I'm sorry, I know that sounds super discriminatory. It's not. It's just an event for men. Okay. The other event I'm launching is called the Ultimate Marketer, which is themed after UFC's The Ultimate Fighter. If you're familiar with that, it's a contest where people fight to the end. Okay. And so I just talked to on the phone yesterday to one of the UFC's champions, one of the guys who's one of the most famous folks, to interview him on my show. Okay, what that does is 2 things. I talked to a guy who's an NBA Hall of Famer. I talked to one of the most successful Major League Baseball managers. In fact, the most successful Major League Baseball managers. Those are the first 3 people that I talked to when it came to my show. And I had introductions to all those folks. But I want you to think about this for a second. Let's say you want to get someone influential on your show. What's one of the best ways to get them on your show? To have someone already on your show who's been influential. You know what I'm saying? Because I get podcast requests all the time, and I go look at the podcast, and if it's a whole bunch of people that are well known, if I'm wow, there's a couple Hollywood actors, there's the ambassador to England, and there's a couple other people that are well-known people, I'm heck yeah, I'm going to be on that show. I want to be seen with those people. So if you want to attract well-known people, start finding well-known people, and you typically have 2 or 3 or 4 that are in your sphere someplace, one introduction away, that you can get, okay? If you need to pay them, but get them, and then the next thing you know, you can get more. You follow me on that one? Not to mention the fact that your name next to somebody influential means to everyone else, wow, that person must be influential, okay? So podcast. There's a whole bunch of other things, and I won't go through all of them. I'll just tell you there's videos. So while Mike was teaching, I was out there knocking out a couple videos for Instagram and Facebook. So videos and just teaching in your personality and those sort of things on social. There's writing. Right now, the best place I've found, anybody want to guess, by the way? I write articles, 1 or 2 a month. The best place I've found for those articles, take a wild guess at this one?
Medium.
Say that?
Medium.
No, but that sounds interesting. I don't even know what Medium is, by the way. So, is it really? New platform. All right, this is not a new platform. This is a been around for a while platform. Anybody want to guess? LinkedIn. Okay, I used to post my stuff to my blog. and then I'd send it out on social media, and I would get very, very little interaction on my blog. I posted on LinkedIn, boy, I'll tell you, I get like 30 shares, 40 comments, 150 likes, okay? It's a very interactive content platform, and LinkedIn is very interested in building that out. Their publisher, they want to be the go-to content for business to business. Okay, so if you write, and you should, LinkedIn is a great place to do that because LinkedIn is promoting you because they want to promote that medium. On that vein, Facebook wants to promote a certain medium, and what is that? Specifically, what kind of, Facebook Live. Okay, so start to think about the social media, like what can you do to help them, right? So Facebook Live is really helpful right now, so start doing some Facebook Lives. Okay, that's it for positioning. I don't have the time to go through all those. We could talk for a day about positioning, but I wanted to lay the foundation. You need at least one. Okay, so for example, when you talk to someone on the phone, you're saying, hey, real quick, just want to introduce myself. My name is Ed Rush. I'm the four-time #1 best-selling author, speaker, author, and advisor, and I'm interested in having you come on to a new show that I'm launching. Guests include 1, 2, 3. I just nailed like 3 or 4, a couple different positioning things all at once, right? I've got the book, I've got my positioning and what I do, and I've got the folks that I work with, and I'm just hitting that right there so that the person on the other end of the line is like, wow, this person's legit. Okay, so positioning. Second one, most important one, by the way, it's at the center. This isn't more like an order as it is sort of a circle around a universe. And the universe is this right here, which is deals. Deals. Did I say that enough? Deals, okay? Here's the interesting thing about business. And I've worked with hundreds of one-on-one clients, thousands of group clients, and probably at this point, hundreds of thousands when I include all the folks on social and stuff like that. Okay, maybe millions. Okay, this should be in your universe. Like here's an interesting thing. So when business owners, and again, I've done this hundreds of times, when business owners think about, I'll give you an example, like a webcast that sells a product. When business owners typically think about building that out, business owners typically think sequentially. Okay, so they think, where am I going to get leads? Probably on Facebook. Where am I going to take them? I'm going to take them to an opt-in page. Where do I take them next? To a webcast. Okay, let's create that. Where do I take them next? To a sales page. Let's create that. Where do I take them next? To where the product is. Then let's create that. People think about creating something sequentially. When you think about creating things, so stop thinking sequentially and start thinking like, by the way, if you study, like for example, Greek or Hebrew, you'll know that the Greek mindset is a sequential mindset, and the Hebrew or Jewish mindset is more of a circular mindset. It's around things, okay? And so when you as a business owner surround your universe around one thing, what is that one thing or two things? What is that? I'm going to tell you, there's 2 things good businesses do, and that's it. You want to take a guess at what they are? Deals. Okay, the first thing is they get a return on their, they get a return for their shareholder, which is, by the way, who's that? You, okay? So they make money. The second thing is they provide a great service in the marketplace or product. Okay, so they do a great job of what they make money doing when you do those 2 things. So you and your universe needs to revolve around this. And I know that sounds mercenary, but you're in business. Okay, this is not a nonprofit, it's around that. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is this, your time. So when you look at your schedule, what you have to ask yourself is, how much of my time on a weekly basis is dedicated to nothing else than making a revenue, to closing deals? And I'm going to tell you the answer to your financial problems. I just gave you the question to ask, okay? Because here's the thing, my clients, I would like them to spend roughly 80% of their time in money-making or revenue-generating activities. And I would like them to spend roughly 20% of their time doing everything else, team building, management, all that other stuff, accounting, okay? What do you think the actual number is? What do you think most business owner entrepreneurs, percentage-wise, what do you think the actual number is? Revenue-generating activities. It's more like 7%. 7%, and I'm gonna prove it to you. Okay, your job for the next 5 days, it's just 5 days. This is my challenge. You can't say no, all right? It's so simple, by the way. Your challenge for the next 5 days is this, to spend 1 hour a day on nothing other than activities that directly lead to income. A lot of times that's text messages, phone calls, Facebook, private messages, hey, let's money phone kind of thing, like, hey, I have an idea how to grow your business, get on the phone. Don't schedule it for next week, get on the phone. Do the deal. Schedule it. Like yesterday, I had somebody who's in the office, who's a potential client. We've been talking about a deal for a long time. She's like, hey, we need to get together sometime soon. I said, grab your calendar, let's schedule it. And I scheduled it for a week or a week and a half from now, which is when we were first open, because we're going to do a deal. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, yeah, I'll contact you later or whatever. Like, schedule it and do a deal. Why? Because you're a steely-eyed killer, and that's what this is all about. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, I understand, like, you know, if you're all PC, I don't mean a literal killer. Okay? I'm figurative killer, okay? So 1 hour a day, every single day, and here's what you do. Go to Google, type in timer, or you use your phone and type a timer. You can't check your social, you can't check your text messages, you can't answer the phone, unless it's a deal-making call. It's an hour a day. After 5 days, you'll go, oh my gosh, I never realized how little time I actually spent. Now, 1 hour a day is only 5 hours of a 40-hour week. That's what? The math is now completely escaping me. What is that? 5 to 10%, 12%, I don't know, was it 12%? 15%? Yeah, that's not much. It's not even 20%, right? Or maybe it is, I don't know. You gotta help me with that. It's 12.5%, right? So the point is, it's not even 80%. But when you do it that long, you look back on your business life and go, dang, I never realized how little time I spent actually doing the one thing that drives income, okay? Who's responsible for your finances? Yeah. So just go get the deal. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to meditate on it. You don't have to like prepare yourself. All that's hurting you. Just go close a deal. Like yesterday, I did an audio for a guy whose name, if I mentioned, you'd know, and everyone in America knows this person. I did a 2-minute audio because I want to do a deal with this person. I recorded the audio and I texted it to him because I have his phone number. I texted. I didn't like listen to it again, you know, edit it, rewrite it. I did it and sent it. Because I'm trying to be a steely-eyed killer. I got other things to do. And people recognize that. You know what they also recognize, by the way? They recognize the opposite of that. They recognize, oh my gosh, I need money now. Okay, so if you, oh my gosh, need money now, when you're talking to someone, guess what you can't project? Yeah, you need to project that, okay? So that one right there. And by the way, deals could be doing a webcast. Deals could be making a Facebook post that has to do with a deal. Deals could be creating some piece of content that you're going to use, but don't make content the excuse for not closing the deal. Okay? Last part is team and infrastructure. And I mentioned this last because it's last, okay? I mean like last. Where do most business owners start? Here. They're like, I'm going to hire a COO, and then I'm going to hire my social media people, and then I'm going to hire customer support, and they haven't done this yet, okay? So you'll read Entrepreneur Magazine, which I think it's a great magazine, but it's also completely full of crap. And I'll tell you why. Because when you read Entrepreneur, they interview these guys who've like had these companies for 10 years, and then they sold them for $1 billion. And they're like, so when you invented ABC Corporation, what were your priorities? And they're like, you know, from the very beginning, we've always been about people, and we've always been about creating jobs. And you're like, that's bullcrap. Because I knew you back then, and you know what you were from the very beginning? You were up at 3 o'clock in the morning in your apartment that you couldn't pay for, and you had no customers, and you barely had your software together, and you were desperate to find people to pay you for your thing. And you know what you weren't thinking about? Your big office, your team, or your people. You were thinking about what? That, right there. Because here's the thing. You want to create jobs? Make a whole bunch of money. You want to help the environment? You make a bunch of money. You know, you want to help a charity? Make a bunch of money. You want to live in a nice house? Make a bunch of money. You want to travel the world? Make a bunch of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, start with the first thing first. Look, here's the thing. I'm like a devout Christian, so I understand priorities. I understand the importance of a relationship with God and family. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about business. We've decided this is a conversation about business. It's what happens between 9 and 5, okay? It's about money, so make it about money. Does this make sense? If it does, say hoorah. All right, so this is not sequential, but this is definitely last, okay? So whether you start with positioning or deals, this is what I'm going to do, and we're going to wrap this one up, and then I'm going to jump into our next training. We're going to talk about closing deals, not surprisingly. But if I was starting with something right now, if I had nothing, what would I start with? I would go close a deal. I'd go find somebody to pay me $10,000, $20,000, okay? Now, once you're successful and you're beginning to transition, what should you start to focus on? Deals. You know what I'm saying? Like, That's what you still focus on. Because what is positioning for? Deals. Customers. Right? I mean, think about it. Can you help people? Like Brian, when people get into a crisis, can you help them?
Yes.
Yeah, so like the best crisis management, okay? The best thing he can do is get someone to pay him a lot of money because he helps them more than they pay them. That's what a deal's all about. Everyone's happy. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't think of one coaching client. You've been in our mastermind for a while. I can't think of one person in years who is like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I got to tell everybody else about that. That's the idea. You give them more than they paid, and we charge a lot. Okay?
There's no problem we can't solve with a shovel and a full-size trunk.
That's funny. Yeah, he said there's no problem we can't solve with a shovel and a full-size trunk. Yes, it's very mafioso of you to say that. That's good. So that sounds like something Mike would say, actually. So, all right, so that's the big three. Was that helpful? If it was, say hoorah. Hoorah. Thank you.